Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to you. So today we're going to dive into a really powerful passage from the Quran's Surah An-Nur. You can think of it as a kind of accountability check. It's one of those moments where the text just cuts through all the noise to get right to the heart of what it means to actually believe and then to act on that belief. Let's get right into it.
And really, it all boils down to this one simple question. It's not about what you think or what you feel or what you intend to do someday. It's asking about movement. When guidance comes, when the instructions are clear, what do you do next? This is the core idea we're going to unpack together.
So first things first, the text gets right to diagnosing the problem. It lays out with almost surgical precision the anatomy of a faith that's all for show, all performance with no real substance behind it.
Okay, so this slide just lays it out so clearly. Verse 47, as our source material explains, just detonates this whole idea of performative faith. You see the contrast right there. On the one hand, you have this big, bold declaration, we believe and we obey. But then you look at the reality, and when it's actually time to act, a group of them just turns away. The disconnect is just glaring.
And this right here, this is the heart of it. The verse is making it crystal clear. Just saying the words doesn't equal belief. Making a claim is not the same thing as making a real commitment. And that last point is so important. Obedience that you put off for later is basically the same as denying it right now. You don't get credit for good intentions that never actually become actions.
You know, this behavior then builds into something even more calculated: selective submission. When a ruling or a judgment is in their favor, sure, they're all in. They'll engage with divine authority. But the second accountability arrives, the moment something is asked of them that they don't really like, they just turn away. They ghost it. It's like treating your faith like it's some kind of business.
And the Quran doesn't mince words here. It calls this exactly what it is: moral opportunism. And I absolutely love the analogy on this slide. Truth isn't a buffet. You don't get to walk down the line and pick and choose the rulings you like as if they're side dishes. This isn't about what's convenient. It's about submitting to what is true, the whole package.
So you might be wondering, okay, why do people do this? What's the root cause? Well, what's fascinating is that the text actually runs through a kind of diagnostic check. It asks a series of questions. Is there some kind of sickness in their hearts? Is it maybe some intellectual doubt that's holding them back? Or maybe they're afraid that God and his messenger will be unfair to them? After running through all these possibilities, the verse just shuts them all down with this definitive conclusion. It says, no, it's none of that. The issue isn't that they're confused or that they have some deep intellectual problem. The point is, this is a conscious choice. They are simply, as the text says, the wrongdoers. Okay, so we've seen the problem taken apart piece by piece. Now the text makes a pivot and shows us the solution. And it's this starkly different, almost refreshingly simple response of a true believer.
And here it is, the believer's response. Just 2 words in English, 4 in Arabic. We hear and we obey. That's it. Just think about the contrast with everything we've just talked about. There are no conditions, no footnotes, no buts, no negotiations. It's just complete, uncomplicated commitment.
Now, it is so important to understand what success actually means here. It's not about getting an emotional high or some warm, fuzzy feeling. It's about alignment. It's about being totally in sync with divine guidance, trusting the process even when you can't immediately see the personal benefit.
What's really cool is how this next verse shows that faith isn't just one thing. It's a whole system, working together. It all starts with obedience. That's the action. But that action is supported by awe in the heart, that internal reverence and respect. And the whole thing is held together by conscious restraint, the discipline to stay the course. So you see, faith isn't just one muscle. It's an entire system.
All right, so we've got these 2 paths laid out, right? The performative faith versus true submission. So what's the payoff? Let's take a look at how the text describes the consequences, the test, and the promise for each of these choices.
I love this comparison between loud loyalty and quiet obedience. On one side, you have the people making these grand, sweeping oaths about what they would do if they were ever asked. And on the other side, you have quiet obedience, the kind that doesn't need to make a big announcement. It just shows up. It does the work without any fanfare because God already knows what's real.
And this brings it all back to you. It's about personal responsibility. The message is simple: obey. You are responsible for your part. No leader, no scholar, nobody can do your obedience for you. Guidance has been delivered, but it requires your personal movement for it to mean anything. Now, for those who actually do move,
The text lays out this incredible promise. We're talking about authority, security, and the establishment of their way of life. But, and this is a big but, this promise isn't unconditional. This slide shows us the 3 non-negotiable requirements: genuine belief, righteous action, and a foundation of what's called tawheed, which means pure, undiluted loyalty to God alone. No partners, no compromises.
And this next point, it flips our whole modern way of thinking completely on its head. We tend to think that if we can just get power, then we can make good changes. Then we can be obedient. The text says, nope, it's the other way around. Real, lasting authority is a consequence of obedience. It follows obedience. It never, ever leads.
And just in case anyone was looking for a shortcut to those big promises, this verse pulls it right back to the absolute basics. It's like it's saying, hold on. Before we even talk about political success or worldly dominance, we have to talk about your spiritual discipline. You have to establish prayer, give in charity, and obey the messenger. There are just no shortcuts.
The passage then wraps up with this powerful guarantee, this sense of closure. Look, in the short term, in this life, things might look unfair. The world can seem totally unjust, but the text assures us that in the end, no one escapes the final accounting. And that ultimate judgment, it will be absolutely, perfectly just.
All right, that was a lot to take in. We've gone from the problem to the solution to the final payoff. So now, let's try to boil all of this down to the single, sharpest, clearest takeaway from this whole passage.
And this slide honestly says it all. This is the entire explainer in a nutshell. When guidance comes, faith speaks, and then obedience moves. In total contrast, hypocrisy also speaks, but then avoidance maneuvers. That's it. That's the fundamental difference between forward motion and just strategic evasion.
And so that leaves us with this final idea to chew on. You know, we often associate strong belief with being loud, with passionate declarations. But what this passage teaches us is something completely different. True belief isn't about volume. It's about precision. It's about showing up quietly and consistently exactly where you've been commanded to be.